Welcome to the Portland Film Festival, presented for the fourth consecutive year by Comcast. We want to thank Comcast team's tremendous support and commitment to independent filmmakers. Their ongoing support ensures that diverse voices are given a platform to share their unique perspectives on the world. We'd also like to thank Kerner Camera, Portland Mortgage, and Oregon Film. Find out more information or buy tickets online at PDXFF21. So I'm Ben Edwards. I'm one of the programmers at the Portland Film Festival, and I also handle a lot of technology and nonsense like that. Today we have Paul Boyd and James Duvall from the film I, Challenger, which you guys have just seen. And let's get into it. I just wanted to start by saying I noticed that you had actually found real people doing the burial challenge. Tell me they were Russians, and that's why all the people online were Russians, and that was like an homage to that.
Exactly. Yeah, they were. Actually, the co-writer of the film, Cara Brown, my partner, she found that online because we wanted to do a contained thriller, you know, like Buried. I had always for years had this idea of doing a contained thriller, but the kind of story wasn't there. And then, you know, we shared the idea. She went off, did some research, came back. These people are burying themselves in Russia for luck, because we knew we wanted to make a film about a pivot to luck. You know, a man with stunted growth that kind of, you know, a door opens to change his life, you know, based on the way he thinks and feels. So yeah, it was based on real things, and people are doing it all over now, you know, so it's interesting, you know. And our deal was to kind of not just do it, but do it and share it online as a live stream and have people react to it. That was kind of the concept, was a small space shared with lots of people online.
Awesome. How claustrophobic was it being in that set?
You know, I tried not to think about it until I was filming it. And I do remember one time I was rehearsing and I had them shut the box so I could rehearse, because they also have these GoPros that were always running. And I remember I actually did start to kind of freak out. I was like, let me out. And nobody was letting me. They weren't listening to me because they thought I was kidding around. We're just rehearsing. And I was really freaking out.
I think we used those pieces too. You know,
that would have been perfect, because I really just was like, can't breathe. It's hot. Oh my God, open it. Hey, is anyone listening? You got to open this thing up right now.
Yeah. We did those in a stage. We did a principal photography just for 12 days in and around the house and the shops and all, you know, him running around.
Just thinking about it makes my fingers wiggle uncomfortably.
We spent a couple of days in a warehouse doing the scenes in the box and some of the green screen. For, you know, the ascension sequence. But yeah, and for most of the shooting in the box, one side was open, we were shooting through, but for some of it, when we were shooting directly down, we had to seal off the whole box. And yeah, you're a great sport there, man. Those were a great 2 days shooting. We were laughing our asses off. Do you remember? Oh my God.
If I can remember correctly, I don't think I have quite the right. I mean, I'm in this mic one. So we did a lot of, like ridiculous messing around. I think at one point I had these beaver teeth that you know, where do you see them in the movie? But I was running around set with these fake beaver teeth, I think, for half.
There's a scene where he escapes from the box at the end and he crawls through the tunnel, and we were going to have his head like raised up to camera with big beaver teeth, you know.
You did,
and it was like, no. So he kept running around on set with these, and I couldn't stop laughing. Remember?
The more he laughed, the more I did it.
Yeah, the last day of shoot. So I think at that point we were just so exhausted that, you know, it was good to end that way though. It felt jubilant. And
it's, you know, but I've got to say there's something about that dynamic too, because we really did. It was such a great experience making that movie, and going back, I guess, you know, when you really think about it in the context of just the film itself and not filming it, being a part of it, that I guess that last half of it's pretty hairy. It gets pretty dark there. Yeah. You know, even
I just had interpreted it for a moment that like the escape was actually the death, and then everything after that is fake, and then
the death dream.
Yeah, it's that was kind of, you know, we wanted to leave that open to where, you know, he does get out, but does he not? It was, you know, that's open for interpretation. You know, we don't want to spell out too much. You know, this is a buddy comedy about, you know, two guys that do an internet challenge, and then beyond that, you can interpret it how you want. There's a lot going on in the subtext. It just depends how you choose to interpret it. You know, we're both stoners, so it's like we kind of try and take it to that other level of consciousness of, you know, what's going on in the film. And it was amazing, really, because, you know, Jimmy just became that character. I remember on the very first day, actually the day before we started, we were on set, and Jimmy's like, he goes, I'll just stay here. He goes, I'll sleep in the bed. I'll stay. And I'm like, because we filmed in our friend's house. And I'm like, no, you don't have to do that. And he goes, no, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to become the character. And he did. He just completely went method. It was mad. He was like showing up to set. It was Sid on, you know, who was there the whole time.
It was kind of like, it was great to be the actor in the first one there every morning for a change as the actor, not the last one or the late one. Yeah. And everyone's coming in and drinking the coffee, and it's kind of just like, you know, I'm living it. So are they ready for me?
Yeah, we never waited for you once. It was you first on set. It was amazing, actually. You know, Jimmy's commitment to the role was, you know, that's how we knew we made the right decision, even from the get-go, months before we started shooting, because we knew what we were up against. We knew we were doing it on a micro budget, and we knew we had limited time. So we needed an actor that we just knew could pull it off, and that we just wouldn't have to do 50 takes. You know, we needed 2 or 3 takes, because we were doing what, 10 pages a day almost, Jimmy? Something
10 pages, sometimes, yeah, sometimes 11.
You know, so yeah, and we had 2 cameras, you know, so we saved a little bit of time that way. And with a tiny crew, like, you know, it was small, and it allowed us to move fast, but, you know, in a very small space, which is hard to move fast in a small. You'd think it'd be easier in a small space, less to do. But to make it continually evolve and have the scenes change and not always shoot from the same angle, it was, you know, we set ourselves some challenges there, I think, Jimmy.
Yeah, you know, I'm so glad it worked out, but I remember there were times when it was such a small space that everybody was in the way. Yeah. But how can you make it unless you have all the necessary departments? It's like, oh, you're in the way. I'm like, oh, I'm adjusting the set. I was like, okay, yeah, never mind. You just finished doing that, and then we'll film.
Yeah, if you pull back just an inch, it's like there's people all over the set. You know, it looks like nobody's there, but yeah, we were crammed into that little space, and it was funny actually, because when I wrote the film with Cara, and I didn't write it specific to a location. You know, we knew we wanted a house. We knew we needed a backyard where we could dig a hole. We knew we needed a side door for the, you know, the geometry of the house was in the screenplay. And it was written after my brother passed away. And then when we started looking for locations, we ended up at my brother's house. We ended up shooting it in my brother's house. And I had somehow subconsciously written it to be shot in this house. The geometry of the house and the whole, it was written right after he died. So, and this is what really ran at home, is that when I went to the house to scout and I spoke to the owner, I said, yeah, we need to dig a hole in the backyard. He goes, there's already a hole. And I'm like, what do you mean? He says, you know the little deck out the back there? I'm like, yeah. He goes, there's a koi pond under there. So we go out, we dismantle the deck. The hole, Jimmy, right? It was almost exactly the same hole size that we needed, hidden under a deck. In a house where my brother, it was written because he passed away. It was like, I'm just going to make a film. And there was the hole waiting for us. That was insane to me. That's when, and that was about a month and a half before the shoot. And I was like, okay, this is all meant to be. It was just all the pieces fell into place like that, you know.
And maybe I'm putting more into it that's there, you know. We tend to do that as human beings, as spiritual beings, as imaginative beings and creative beings, but it feels like his brother. It feels like your brother, though I hadn't met him, was there for the whole shoot. And I mean, and in a lot of ways he was. Yeah. Literally.
It was strange. Yeah. Literally 5 months after he passed away. But yeah, what the strange thing for me, James, was that I wrote it not knowing that I wrote it to be in that house without knowing, and then looked at 10 other houses and then ended up going there, and the owner's going, we should do it here. And I hadn't even thought of that. And it turned out to be the perfect location.
It's the heart of the movie, really. And it's one of the things that, as much as I loved the comedic elements and I loved Sid, that what I really loved about the script and the story by Challenger when I read it is, you know, for me, it caught my heart when it really gets into the backstory about Sid and his younger brother who passes away. Yeah. And that really tugged at my heartstrings. And, You know, I know sometimes, especially in an outrageous film, it's like, well, you don't really have to justify these things. These characters are just on this adventure. And I accept that and I believe it. But it became this part for me as an actor, a big subtext to who Sid was, where he was coming from, who he wanted to be and where he was going.
Yeah. And a reason for him to be who he is and why he is the way he is. As an isolationist, he's a loner, he's a hermit, right? He lives on his own. His mother's bedroom is still all set up. It's like he has problems, he has issues, he's trapped and he's stuck in a moment, right?
I'm sleeping in the room, in the living room in my own house.
Right. So we're in his dysfunction the whole film. And then at the end, when you transition through, we get why. And it's a tiny little key that unlocks to show, you know, when you're suddenly in the subterranean world is when we come across the reasons for who you are, you know, which are the things that everyone keeps secret in their lives. I mean, sometimes they don't even know themselves, right? It's in their own subconscious. And that was a challenge for this film because we're making a comedy, but it's really a hybrid. It's kind of a little scary here and there. It's funny here and there. You know, it's
we were talking about
definitely different. It's definitely, you know, not trying to be like everything else. And I don't know whether it works or not. I don't know, but there's an experimental element to this, and you know, that's important to us going in. Is that, you know, we want to try and break the mold a little and do something different. And we'll just see whether people enjoy it. You know, that's going to be the real test, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were speaking about it just a couple of days ago, and our movie, there's nothing like these other movies I'm about to mention, but they is similar in the sense as they cross genres, which is what I Challenger does. And I love that about Shaun of the Dead. It was a comedy, but then it has these dramatic moments, you know, when his mom dies, it's like, yeah, you want to cry. Yeah. You know, it has these adventurous moments. So it's kind of crossing genres, you know, rom-zom-com, romantic zombie comedy, before they kind of did that. Yeah. And, you know, I Challenger's kind of the same thing, you know, it's like we kind of cross these genres. And we were speaking about it again, you know, not that has anything to do with our movie, but what we loved about Squid Game.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen Squid Game yet on Netflix.
I have not checked it out yet.
I mean, I'm already a huge fan of Korean films. So the ability to be able to cross genres again, to do something that's heart-wrenching and to then do something that's funny and then to do something that's dramatic and mix it all in, and it all kind of works. Or not, I shouldn't even say kind of works. It works like a dream. Yeah. And it's refreshing and it's new because you're not just sitting in one, you know, you are on this roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, it was kind of.
And you know, and Sid's kind of an anti-hero too. He's not really a likable character in the beginning. He's like selling.
Well, I mean, he's selling weed to kids.
Yeah. Selling weed to kids. He's stuck in his little hovel. But you know, by the time he leaves.
Yeah, I was smoking before I was 18. Thank God for the people that sold me mine. You know, I wouldn't be the man I am today.
We learn who people are through other people's reactions and responses to them. And in the film, as he opens, the shell opens, he goes out and he starts to meet and connect with other people. We see that everyone likes him. You know what I mean? He is that guy. He's dysfunctional, but he's likable. And that was kind of important for us to make the audience kind of care about him, but a character that's kind of unlikable. So, you know, we set ourselves some real challenges, but I think the nuances of James's performance pulled it off, you know what I mean? Because he is a gentle, sensitive guy, you know, just in real life. And that was why, to me, he was perfect for this, because Sid had vulnerability, you know, he was kind of teetering. And I thought you captured that really well.
Yeah, well,
and definitely that friendship between Sid and Logan, you know, definitely helps propel that story, because it's such a new friendship, but it works so well. And yeah, speaking of Logan, the actor you got for him, I mean, I recognize most of the people, Tina Majorini, of course, Margaret Cho, but has he been in much? I mean, he's so natural.
Yeah, he came out of children's TV. He's been in a lot of stuff, and really talented young guy.
Yeah, great actor, and fun to work with. It's nice to have this. It really, the dynamic between us is very natural. It didn't have to really work at that. So that's something you kind of like, again, it's kind of a dream. You know, I think for a filmmaker, and I shouldn't really speak for Paul, but I think even in my experiences, like half of it is casting. If you can cast correctly, you get the right actors for the right parts, then it kind of just rolls.
It's the old saying, casting is destiny. It's, you know, he was perfect. Like even from 5 minutes of meeting Coy, I knew he was going to be perfect. You know, he fit the type, the personality, his voice. Like I was very specific too about what I was looking for in that character. That he had to be, you know, I wanted him to not just be some street kid. You know what I mean? I wanted him to be a mommy's boy. You know, I wanted him to look younger than he is. I wanted him to look African too, you know, not just LA, you know. And it was great with Margaret Shaw came in, and MC Light came in and helped us, and she was great.
I was just about to say, I'm still kind of like, well, I can't believe you got MC Light. I'm floored that Margaret, I'd worked with Margaret many, 25 years ago. I did a movie with Margaret where she did a small cameo for us called Doom Generation with Gregor Rocky. So I've known Margaret for many years. And when I reached out to her, you know, they had told me the idea of, they didn't know that I knew Margaret. And it turns out that I did know her. And so again, it was sort of one of those things where like, they thought it was a good idea. That's inspirational. I thought it was an inspirational idea. I reached out to Margaret. She loved it. She jumped on board. You know, and that you can't really act. I mean, we really got lucky with all the actors that Paul assembled and was able to
get.
It's
funny with Margaret, you know, when Cara and I were first talking about, okay, who do we see in these roles, that was the first person we picked. We're like, oh, wouldn't it be great if Margaret Cho would do it? And it was amazing. Like 3 weeks later, she was like, yep, I'm in. So that was, you know, we got everyone that we went after, even with Tina, right, James? It was like, we knew that's who we wanted. We went out, you know, so. But we kept our sights realistic, you know. I mean, we knew the ballpark that we're in, and it was all about choosing, you know, fellow artists who were on the same page, and luckily everyone was. You know.
It's still and you know, for me, I've been doing this for 30 years now, and so the magic of still making movies like this, working with people like Tina that I hadn't had the opportunity to work with, or Jerry Bednob, or Dag Ferrich, or you know, MC Light, or Coy Stewart. Like, you know, for me, it was a blast to work with these people, and some of them I've loved for a very long time. So I still have that excitement, maybe even more now than when I was younger. There's still, I think when I was younger, there was still kind of a nervousness that seems to have gone away from me. Now it's just like Paul was saying, once I'm involved with something, I don't mind jumping hook, line, and sinker. I'll live there if I can, if it's okay.
Oh man, you've lived it since too. It's been amazing. Like, you know, your involvement and passion for the film.
It's an adventure. I mean, it is. Making movies is an adventure.
Yeah. It was great, actually, you know, the way that it worked out because of COVID, because we filmed in 2019. And
6 months before, yeah.
And we were ready to release the film last year in 2020. But we were, with regards to the internet scene and the live stream, we were actually going to go and film vignettes all over LA of different people watching the live stream, but that couldn't happen because of COVID. So we were like, you know, let's do it as an interface and just see people on the screen. And, you know, that's how we came up with that graphic idea, which actually changed the whole thing for us because it allowed us to get 100 people as opposed to maybe 5 or 6 vignettes that we'd be able to shoot in LA. So, and because of lockdown, everyone was at home, everyone was on their computer. So it was just this, right? It just unfolded to be this beautiful thing that we ended up thinking we were going to be finished, and it added this whole element to it and allowed us to involve friends from all over the world. I got high school friends in there, people I've known for 40 years. I mean, we put everyone in there. So that really added something for me, James, you know what I mean? To be able to put everyone we know in there and be part of it was, you know, that was great. And that wouldn't have happened if COVID hadn't happened. I mean,
what's one of those magical things along the way when you're making, you know, from the time that you're conceiving a film and then writing it and then putting it together, then shooting it and then going into the editing, you have all these stages that you have to get through. And in those stages, things pop up that you never planned on, you never thought about. And it's those things that kind of really help make it. And it just seemed, at least, you know, I know for Paul and I both, and for Karen, everyone involved, it just feels like things just, these were gifts that were being given to us all along the way. You're just walking along the path, and you're like, oh, look, there's another like Easter. Okay, yeah, we'll take that. Oh, look at the gift inside of this. Isn't this something else? And
I think that happens, right? When you know you're on the right path, it's like synchronicity, right? Things just.
I think that's a perfect. In fact, that is the perfect, I think, adjective for it. It was synchronicity. You knew you were on the right path and doing the right thing because beneficial things kept happening, like magic kept happening. Yeah. You know, and we hope now that the film's finished. I mean, it's magic to be sitting here with you talking about it and to be a part of this festival and getting the film out. So, you know, I think at this point already, this is where it's the second half of it, that any sort of response past that becomes magic. Yeah. Because there is sort of this reception to what we've created. We can have all these things, but then it's out of our hands past that point. We can only hope
exactly.
that
I respond
or I watch it, like it in some way.
I think there's no lose. It's like win or learn. You know what I mean? Like if the film is a success, and people like it, great. If they don't, then we're going to know why. You know what I mean? And it will be a learning curve of like, okay, this is and I'm looking forward to that. Actually, I'm looking forward to the pluses and negatives, like what worked, what didn't work, like, you know, because I think we've created a kind of little cult experimental, you know, thing, a little. And you know, this is a stoner movie. Let me, for stoners and gamers, like we knew our audience, like, you know, that's important. That's our world, and we wanted our film to embrace that. And I'm a big advocate for it. And you know, hopefully stoners and that whole community will pick up our film and share our film. That's what we're hoping. Do you know what I
I
mean?
mean, there's a reason why I think they chose me to host this Q&A.
Our man. I was gonna say, I mean, it's too bad we can't smell anything through here.
Yeah, there you go.
looks like I need more though.
Yeah, last time I went into town, it was the adding of the tax after the price that got to me.
Yeah, you know, that it's the tax thing's tough. People are like, you know, still like, why would you go and get a recommendation? I'm like, because I get 20% off tax.
Yeah.
That's why.
That's
actually 20% off.
But honestly, Jimmy, I mean, we smoked all through the 90s when it was so expensive. You couldn't get it anyway. You had to go to some guy's house to pick it up. Now you walk in a shop. Are you kidding me? It is just like, you know, it's just fantastic. It really, you know, and I'm all for wonderful. The medicinal purposes of marijuana. You know,
don't mind me. I'm medicating.
Yeah. So yeah.
For later.
But you guys really should put up a little pot leaf on a special edition Blu-ray where, you know, it's the smokers edition.
We'll do that. We're releasing the film in conjunction with Strike Back Studios, so we're really excited. It's going to go on all the streaming platforms probably in Q1 2022, and they really believe in the movie, and we're going to do specific marketing and PR for it, to, you know, and advertising to kind of put it in the right place. But, you know, I believe, you know, films have a life of their own. You know, we just want people to share it. That's it, and that's going to be the true test. Will people share the film and talk about the film? And you know, I'm excited.
Will they like it? Yeah, will they like it? So
yeah, we put our heart and souls into it for sure. I mean, I've been a filmmaker, you know, 40 years since I was, you know, a little kid, and you know, so for me, I put everything, all of ourselves went into it, and that's what's interesting, because there's really, even though we were limited budgetarily, like, because we literally did it for, you know, very, very little, you know, that's, you know, it's what's going on in front of the camera, right? It's not, budget should be irrelevant really with regards to story. Look at Dinner with Andre, you know what I mean? They had no money. There's two people sitting having dinner in a restaurant. It's the most compelling thing you can watch. And that's the elusive art of filmmaking, is how to capture that. Did you capture it well? Did you tell the story well? Could you have told it better? That, as a lover of film, a cinephile and a student of film, still, that is the greatest challenge for me. Is, you know, I've been making film my whole life, but I still feel like I'm at the beginning of learning how to tell a story. And, you know, and hopefully over the next few films that we're releasing, it will, you know, I'm going to learn what works and what doesn't work. Because right now, you know, that's where I'm at, is wanting to know, you know, what people dig, what they don't, you know. Be interesting to see that.
I mean,
yeah, and hopefully you guys can get a good like audience screening together, so you can really hear the reactions at the different places that you thought you would get or you wouldn't.
Yeah, totally.
The crazy thing is like, you know, like I said, same, you know, from doing this for so many years now, I'm so proud of what we made, and I really do hope people like it. But all we can do is do the best, and we did the best we could. We put everything into it. So we put everything into it, and then it's like your little baby, you've got to let it go into the world, and you don't know what's going to happen, but you hope good things happen to it. You hope your baby can go to college, maybe get a couple of words, you know, get out there to have a life, have a happy life. And, you know, and that's always the interesting part about making a film, is that there's the life of making it, and then there's the life it has after you're finished with it, and you have to kind of let it go and hands off.
Yeah.
You always wish, you know, we hope for the best.
Well, it sounds like you already have a distribution deal. What is Strike Back Studios then? I'm not familiar.
They're a new studio. It's run by a guy I've known for a long time called Noor Ahmed, and they're an independent studio, and yeah, they've been going just a couple of years. But I go way back with the president of the company, 10 years, and they just gave us the deal that we were looking for, you know, for our film, and So we're stoked, you know, and that's the hardest thing. Like once you're signing deals with, I mean, you know, distribution deals with movies, you know, trying to recoup and all of that, you know, it's very complex. And so I just knew for this, because it was such a DIY homemade project, that I needed to go with someone I knew, you know what I mean? Someone I trusted, rather than just put it out into the ether. I wanted to keep it contained, and you know, so. And yeah, and they're releasing a lot of films this year and next year, so we're excited about them.
What a good time for film, I think. I mean, I haven't been so excited about all the movies that are in the theaters right now and all the movies that are about to burst onto the scene. So I think it's a good time, a really good time for movies, actually.
You're right. People are just devouring. I mean, you know, because of binge watching and, you know, online.
Binge watching, and sort of, it's like I just went to the theaters for the second time in a year and a half. I haven't been, I think the last time that had been that long in between films is when I saw my first movie when I was a little boy. I don't think it's been a year and a half since I've been to the theater my entire life.
Yeah.
So to go back and, you know, we're finally getting some, you know, at least I know as far as like the big fair goes, like I'm excited about Daniel Craig's Last Bow as James Bond. I'm excited about the new Dune. I'm excited about.
I want to see Dune in theater for sure. That
yeah, I have HBO, but I'm going to watch that in the theater.
Yeah.
That's crazy watching something like that on a small. No, I want it. It's got to be 50 feet high. You know, and Denis films like The Arrival and Prisoners and the Blade Runner blew me away. He's an incredible visual filmmaker. Got to watch that in theater.
I mean, Sicario.
Sicario. And that movie, you know, you have this movie taking place on the border about these drug.
It's incredible.
You know, agents, and it's visually, it's beautiful.
Yeah, just the way they set up the story. It's a great movie.
Also, speaking of visual, interesting, I think you guys really did maximize that location, because it's, you know, for being in a small house and just the backyard and the front yard and a couple of small locations, I feel like I got to see every bit of the house, and it was really, you know, it felt like you were able to really show a lot without being, you know, showing the same angles and stuff. That was.
You know what's wild about that house is what you're seeing on camera, honestly, looks much bigger than it really is. That thing is so tiny.
Yeah, well, we shot it wide angle. Like I storyboarded the entire film. I did 2 books. Every single shot was boarded. So because we had a few months of prep, I knew, and I shoot a lot of my own stuff. I brought in a DP to do this, Brooks Geyer, because someone I've known for 20 years. But I'm very, you know, visually orientated with regards to camera. I always have been doing hundreds of commercials and videos. I've learned, you know, how to maximize filming a space. And that was important here because we were in a corner. But I also knew that, you know, depending on how I lensed it, that you can make, you know, I wanted it to feel like he was in a box anyway, right? Because it's the symbolism of the box, right? Because he ends up in a box, but the box is really his brain, and his apartment is like a box. It's like a capsule. That's why all the windows are covered in newsprint. Like that yellow look inside the house, that was 100% intentional. The color theory of what yellow represents, which is knowledge and cowardice, right? I mean, many, many different things. Oh, look at that,
Daddy. I saw.
Sorry, someone's invading the interview a little bit.
The yellow's coming from that room back there.
Yeah, who's that little one?
His name's Luke.
Luke, he's beautiful.
So we shot the house with two lights. It was like a couple of 2Ks outside the window. So we shot everything wide open, knowing you know our restrictions on gear. So that whole yellow pool of light inside there was intentional, and also allowed us to, wherever we filmed the room, depending on what time of day it was, we'd have a slightly different look. It would kind of change and evolve in intensity depending on what was coming through the windows. Yeah, we tied our hands, but you know, necessity is the mother of invention, right? When you limit your resources, you have to really think about how you're going to put something together, and you know, so that was the theory behind that.
There's definitely a lot to say to that. I mean, you've seen movies where people have had the unlimited budget and it ends up being just kind of over bloated and
I know it's funny.
Whereas,
There's this story about Michael Bay doing one of those massive Transformer movies, and he wanted to do this scene where the airplane's crashing and the camera's moving around. And he was told he couldn't do it. It was like, there's not enough money. I'm like, how? $200 million. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's never enough money to do anything you want. So it's I think with film, that's the equation, isn't it? It's figuring out how to, the planning is everything to me.
Yeah, sometimes not being able.
Yeah, no, the Herzog thing of showing up and not shooting to a board. Like I did the boards, but did the boards come out on the shoot, Jimmy? I don't think they did once. Because you've got on the day, you've got to go there and figure out how it's going to work on the day, block it out, and then you'll see. But the boards became the backup of like, well, I have a game plan if it doesn't flow as it's meant to flow naturally on set, but it did. So. Yeah.
It sounded like it was a very organic experience.
Yeah. Is that the growler?
It is. He's growling at me a little bit.
I love it.
Oh, yeah, he's a sweetie. He just misses daddy. I just saw the door open in this little tail. I'm like, they're amazing. They're amazing. Like, they're magical. Luke, you're magical. I don't know if you can hear it, but you're magical, little guy.
Luke, they're saying you're magical.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. He knows.
Well, before we wrap up, I've got a couple questions that I wanted to ask. Is there any advice you'd give to first-time filmmakers? I mean, Paul, you've been making music videos and commercials for a long time. Jimmy, I mean, I remember seeing you in Iraqi movies in the 90s, all the way throughout. I mean, you spoke to a little bit of the nervousness, and now you have that comfortability, but obviously you can't get over the nervousness without experience.
It helps. I mean, it kind of was. I mean, in a strange way, I learned it through Greg. Greg was a big part of my formative years because I was making things on such a small scale that it was easy to perform. I didn't have this big audience in front of me, even though I'd started off doing theater. So that kind of intimacy helped me to open up. That by the time that I started working with people like Roland Emmerich on Independence Day, he is the one. I think it was. He had done Independence Day and it was this big hit. And then he did Godzilla and they were trying to tear him apart. And we were all in Mexico. And I remember he was sitting and Dean Devlin, the writer, was pretty crushed by it. And this is where I learned about the career and about being comfortable and about the craft, really any sort of craft. And he looked to Dean, he goes, look, Dean, we're not pretending to be geniuses here. And like I said, with Paul and I, we made the best movie we can make. We gave everything we could and more. We did everything we could. That's all we can do. All we can do is make the best we can, and hopefully they like it. And if they don't, okay, cool. We learn from that. We go back to the drawing board. We make another one. But it's something that you have a passion for and you love so much that you continue to do. And then it, of course, the success helps, but then it really becomes about, improving the craft, becoming better. And I think, when you look at it along those lines, you allow yourself and you forgive yourself to not be perfect, to not be 100%, because nothing that we make or perform is record or do on any level is 100%.
I think to answer your question, I think Jim's got a good point there. I think it's like Ed Wood. Remember that movie with Ed Wood? And it was like, your film sucks. And he goes, I know, but the next one will be better. And that's the message to kids that want to go out and make films. It's like, hold on, Jimmy. It's just to not be afraid to fail. It's just to go out, do it with your phone. Take your phone, film your friends, make your story, and the next one will be better. And the next one after that will be better. But you won't get better unless you go out and do it, because it's like writing. If you want to be a writer, write. If you want to be a filmmaker, you got to do the same thing. And people will say, and sometimes people want to be filmmakers, but they're really writers, because they'll spend the whole time writing, thinking they're going to make a film, but all the effort goes into writing. But if you want to make a film, go and do it. There's no excuses anymore. 30 years ago, we didn't have iPhone. I mean, are you kidding me? What you can do with a phone? I mean,
4K.
Movies
I
have
don't even want 4K. It's too much.
Movies have won Sundance that have been filmed on phones. So to me, and that's the passion, right? If you want to do it, you're going to find a way. When I started in as a teenager, I had a Super 8 camera, Super 8 film. I had to send the film to Germany to get processed, had to come back. If I wanted to show it to someone, I had to get my projector out. There was no videotape. It was literally a labor of love. And now that it's so easy to create content and to have an audience on YouTube, You don't even need a distributor if you're good, right? If you're good and you know how to work social media and you're prolific and you continually make content, you're naturally going to build your own audience. So I think the whole paradigm is shifting. I mean, it's obvious that it is. And we're embracing that. We are full on DIY. And to be honest, I kind of want to stay that way. You know, like big studios, I'd rather stay independent, make my own films, and you know.
And that would be the advice, to not give up, to keep going, to not anyone. They're going to tell us that we're not good. It's going to happen, the guarantee. But you can't listen to those people. You got to follow your heart, follow your passion, whatever that is, and you keep doing it, and you improve as you keep doing it, and not let anybody get in your way. And that would be the advice that Paul and I are, you know, would like to impart. And I think that's the advice I've been imparting my entire career. They always told me I wouldn't make it, and I'm still here. I mean, I'm not going away. You know, I don't, for lack of a better phrase, I've said this a few times and it's like upset people in the casting room, but I'm like, look, just think of me as an STD. Just when you think I was gone, I'm back with a vengeance. So you got me for life. I'm not going anywhere. So you just got to get used to me, because you carry me around like luggage. I'm not going anywhere. So just get used to me.
Hilarious.
Yeah, it's a little crude, but I mean, I think, you know, I'm humble enough to think that, you know, I'm like I'm like that sore that won't go away. So just make peace with me and we'll have a good time together.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what's next for both of you?
Well, for me, we have another film coming out called We Are Gathered Here Today, which we did during COVID, which is about a patriarch dying in hospital and all the family being on a Zoom conference call. And we did that in collaboration with Google, and the entire film is phone calls that build to a big video conference call that we've entered to Sundance. That's coming out next year. It's like a 60-minute, it's experimental too. And a film I made 10 years ago called Vicious Circle is getting released. And then, and we're just setting up there's 2 films we're going to shoot in 2022. So we're just staying on the ball and not really concerning ourselves with going and trying to, you know, raise big money and do it. You know, we're just going to stay in our circle. And, you know, John Waters, I mean, you know, Jim Jarmusch, Spike Lee, you know, that's, I want to build it that way, kind of slowly, independently, and try and stay true to, you know, our own writing. But we'll see, anything could happen.
Yeah, and, you know, and as I was saying, I try to stay as prolific as possible for the craft. I've been very fortunate to be busy. Right before I Challenger, right around the same time, I have another movie coming out, which is one of Martin Landau's last films called Without Ward. And it's kind of set in the future with the house, with half the world on quarantine and lockdown under penalty of death. They cannot leave their house. So we thought it was kind of a poignant time to finally kind of release it. And I think that'll be a kind of interesting kind of, you know, again, something different and out there, but interesting at the same time, that I'm looking forward to people seeing. And I'm getting ready to start a new series, kind of like a undercover cop in the mafia, working in the mafia, underground mafia in Buffalo instead of New York. Probably go away in a month or 2 for the next 3 months and shoot the first season. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. You know, I just do that and come back and hopefully jump on board one of the movies with Paul, and, you know, if he'll have me again, and just keep trying to work and, you know, build that craft. Like I was saying before, I never really think of any end goal, and that's kind of been more liberating for me, is that everything that I do is kind of just leading to the next job. So learning to focus in the moment and put everything that I have into that job on that day. And at the same time, once that's done, go, all right, what do we have next for the, I really am, I'm excited in the sense that, you know, it's easier for me now than it's ever been to move from job to job.
You did such a good job in this film, Jimmy, that I just hope, like, one of my hopes is that it has some impact on your career, because you're so talented, man. You've done so much, and, you know, I just think I just see you in bigger and better roles, and you know what I mean. And I just hope that somehow the film does some of that for you.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I mean, the fact that the writer director right here, you all heard it from the horse's mouth, everybody. That as an actor is the biggest compliment. Then I've done my job, and then that's when I really hope it does well, because I would like to continue working. But that is where, for me, I can rest my laurels and be like, all right, well, if the creator of this is happy with what we made, then I'm good. Then I'm okay now. And then I've got to try to get my ego out of the way and let go. When if someone doesn't like it and I take it personal, I got to try not to take it personal. Because like I said, that's a part of it too. I mean, I think we all know, to cut it short, but we all know we live in a divisive society at the moment. So expect that kind of stuff. And if you expect it without taking it personal, then there's no reason to be combative or conflictive on the way back. You can respect someone else's point of view, even if it's scathing, and you move on.
Yeah, no, I'm interested to hear the good and the bad, to be honest, really, Jimmy. You know what I mean? I am truly, because that's the learning curve, you know what I mean? But films, I love how polarizing films are. You know what I mean? Like some of my friends, I'll be like, God, I love this movie, and they'll be like, I fucking hated it. That's the beauty of film and art, right? Is that it's so subjective. And sometimes when you get it right, I guess, and that's when everyone joins in and everyone, you strike that chord. But that's not the goal. I mean ultimately it is. You want to appeal to everyone, but it's okay to be niche. You know what I mean? It's okay to be in a small circle. And for us, that this is a homemade film. So I'm really
well, it doesn't look like a homemade film. It definitely looks like a real movie. So
that's great.
My favorite musician and band in the world, the jazz butcher Pat Fish, God rest his soul, he just passed away, was my biggest inspiration and my hero. So it doesn't matter about the size of these things as so much as how they can impact people, right? And how the effect it can have them. That's lifelong.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I'm excited, and I'm thrilled that you guys are hosting it.
Fingers crossed.
Really. Thanks a lot for being there for us,
Yeah, well, thank you very much for coming out and speaking with us. We really appreciate it. We really enjoyed this movie, and we're really glad to have you guys on board to help promote it and get it out there, and hopefully we can.
Oh wait, do you guys see whose head's popping up back there behind the TV? I got the TV up, so sometimes it just kind of.
Oh, there he is,
Frank.
Right, and believe it or not, I just found this, which is kind of funny because I think that I can't really display it, but I've had this with my mask for some time because I've had this the entire time I've had the mask.
Oh wow!
It's this. My eye. He's like, "Do you want your prosthetic eye?" I'm like, "Yeah."
It's so awesome they let you keep some of your props.
Yeah, I had to. Well, the screen, I don't have the screen worn mask. It's a copy from the mold of the screen worn mask. Kirk Hammett from Metallica bought one of them for 28 grand. And then my friend Jack Morrissey, who has one of the screen worn suits and another mask, is about to donate that to the American Motion.
You're the man behind the mask, buddy.
The man behind.
Yeah.
But in I Challenge, I am the man without the mask.
Just the handle.
Yeah.
Just the handle.
There you go.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. And let me read this quick outro script. Remember to vote virtually after the screening. Thank you guys for watching, and please support independent voices. Please check out our virtual lobby to connect with filmmakers, attendees, and more at pdxff.com.